Hello, everybody, and welcome to the LFC Transfer Room live stream with myself, Matty, and Race. As mentioned on Twitter earlier, we're doing a little bit of a special sort of a stream today, purely because it's a bit of a slow news week, international break. None of the players that we don't normally be covered will be playing with the team that we really want them to be playing with at the moment. But look, is what it is. We all do enjoy a little international break, a little break from the hectic news that was there last week. All the way up to transfer deadline day. But at the moment, it's myself, Race, and Matty here to entertain you guys this evening on a little bit of a special stream. So I'll throw it over to you guys first. How are we all? Matty, how are you, my friend?
Fed up with the heat. Other than that, I'm great.
I'd be the same. It's nearly 30 degrees here in Ireland and the humidity's on 90%. It's genuinely like walking through stew. It's just not fun at all. Race, how are you, my friend?
Well, doing well, as we mentioned before. Of course, my football version, NFL football, is kicking off this weekend. So I'm excited. I know it's
back.
Yeah, I know international break's a little boring, but I'm entertained here. I'm good to go.
Yeah, same with me. I got my Niners playing on Sunday at 6 against the Steelers. So against Colin's Steelers. Colin, another one of the guests that we have on here, is a Steelers fan. So that'll be a bit of entertainment there. But more to the point of what we're going to be at today. We have a tier list for all of the signings that have been made not all of the signings, but majority of the signings that have been made. If you want, if we done all of the signings, Chelsea alone would take up the whole hour and a half that we'd be doing. So we can't really get into that. More signings than games won since they joined. And we have Nahum with us now as well, who's about to join in here. Happy days. How are you, my friend? How are you doing?
Doing well, just recovering from the stresses of travel. Back from my uni block release. Got back a bit later than expected.
No problem. Happy to have you here. So as I was saying, we're going to be doing like a tier list. So we're going to be rating the transfers, and I mentioned here. So I'm going to jump off here and I'm going to go onto the screen where it is. So we're going to have our potential flops, our bad signings, okay signings, good signings, great signings, and world-class signings. So what we'll do is we'll start from bottom to top. So we'll start down here with Matt Doherty. So you guys in the chat as well, we want a lot of interaction from you guys too. So we want to see where you guys think that he would be able to go. I'll start with yourself, Matty, in relation to Matt Doherty. Have you watched much of him? Do you think he could be thrown in as a good signing, an okay signing, a bad signing? Do you think he's going to be a flop? Like, he is a 31-year-old. I say that as a 28-year-old that's not that much younger than him. So it's a bit bad of me to be saying anything about his age.
Yeah, do you know what? I think he's a good signing in the circumstances of the club that he signed for. I mean, he left Spurs to go to Atletico Madrid. I know he weren't brilliant at Spurs, but he will definitely improve. It's Bournemouth he went to, isn't it? Is it Bournemouth?
No, he went from Wolves to Spurs to Atletico Madrid, back to Wolves.
Yeah. So I feel like because Wolves, they can't get a goal, they need to stay strong at the back, and they have got a strong back line. I feel like he definitely does improve them. Like, if you compare him to, say, I know Conte lost Connor Cody 2 years ago, but that's the level that they've been at the past few years. And now they're getting someone from Atletico Madrid. He's played for Atletico Madrid in La Liga, which is still a very, very good standard league, a very big club. So I think he's a good signing for Wolves. If he was joining any club bigger, I'd say it's probably a bad signing.
Yeah.
But for Wolves, I feel like it is a bit of good business for them.
I mean, that's something that we have to really consider too in relation to the signings is cost, impact, and the club that they went to. Like, it's all well and good saying Declan Rice is a world-class signing, but realistically, for £105 million price tag, it's his expectation to go in and absolutely change that team. Similar to Caicedo as well. We'll get on to them guys in a minute. Race and Nahum, do you think he's an okay signing or a good signing for Wolves? Do you think he's okay? Any counterpoints in relation to that?
Yeah, I think it's an all right sign for them. I mean, of course, he was with Wolves before, so it's just going back to the club. He was there before, and he warranted a move away. When Spurs bought him, so they, there was something in the player there. So, just kind of your average signing. And again, Wolves are certainly defense is going to be their priority this season. So just getting another defender in there, kind of knowing the club and knowing what they're about. It's certainly just a solid move overall.
Perfect. And now, this is obviously my first time on stream with you. Please forgive me if I'm pronouncing the name wrong. Is it Nahum or Nahum?
Yeah, so it's Nahum. Basically just
Nahum.
Graham with an
Perfect. I'm making it hitting myself so far in this. That's
No
absolutely
problem.
fantastic. Give me a couple of your opinions on Matt Doherty. Do you think he's a decent signing? He's my fellow countryman, as I was so evidently pointed out earlier by Charlie. Clearly not good enough for me to notice, but he's a fellow Irishman. He's 31. Do you think it's a decent signer for him to go back to the club that he was with for so long, that he brought up from the Championship too?
I do, yeah. I think because to be honest, there wasn't that many problems with Tottenham really. The termination when he went to Atletico, that was a mutual termination, right? It's because they had too many people out on loan and they didn't want to hinder his career. So he's Prem proven. He's definitely at that level, and it wasn't like he left for any lack of skill. So it's almost a shame it didn't work out at Atletico, I guess. But I think it's definitely a good signing for Wolves in general. Yeah, I've got a good friend who's a Spurs fan. Affectionately calls him the Doc. And it's he was sad when he left, and I think he's endeared himself to many fan bases around the country and in Europe. So I think he'll do well there. I think the fans will love to have him back. I think that's an all right signing. I think good is probably where I'd put it.
Yeah, I think middle of the road is probably the best thing from there. Is just having him right in there, right in the middle. He's not great. He's not world class. He's not okay. There could be an argument made for either one of these, but I think good is, considering the squad that he's gone to, I think good is probably the best one to go for. Moving on to Brighton, which will be the next team. We have Baleba, Pedro, and Fati. So they and you can forgive my Irish accent for pronouncing that last one because it sounds like an insult. But we'll start with Baleba first. Race, can you give me a couple of your opinions on Baleba? Where do you think he'd rank? World class, great, okay, good, bad, potential flop? I know there's going to be a couple on this list that are going to land in the potential flop area.
Maybe just, I guess, okay for now. I mean, I don't think he's played for Brighton yet this season, so maybe kind of we'll have to wait and see on that. But of course, with Brighton, the past couple seasons, they've shown the ability to, unearth these gems, and just turn them into these, big time players. And of course, losing Caicedo and Mac Allister in this window, they're certainly in the market for maybe doing that again. And who knows what we'll see. So I can't say I have too many strong opinions on this or anything like that. But just kind of maybe Brighton just gets the benefit of the doubt right now, just to see what they can, turn this player into.
Yeah, I think he is going to be the Caicedo replacement. Essentially, he's going to come in because these guys, as you said, unearthed them just from absolutely anywhere. So it wouldn't be all that shocking that if this guy in 2 years' time is sold for another 100 million and then Evan Ferguson is then sold again on top of that for another 200 million on top of it. So it wouldn't necessarily shock me at all with that. Any disagreements, Maddie? Think the same? He's just okay. We haven't seen enough of him yet to put him anywhere other than that.
I feel like my head should say world class because he's going to end up that. You aren't made a fool of in like 2 years. But I mean, he is only 19, but he did play for Villa last year, didn't he? And got a good amount of appearances for them, and was good in that side as well. So I don't think we'll expect to see him in a Brighton team. Maybe from the off. I think that deal, De Zerbi's going to embed him into the side. But
yeah,
I think what did they pay for him? 25 mil, something like that.
Something about that, yeah.
Yeah, I think good, okay is where I'd put him right now, but you just know he's going to be in that world class one, and you're going to eat your words in 2-3 years' time.
You will. It's kind of like Caicedo being signed for 5 million and Ed Woodward with Man United saying that was too much to pay for him back in the day, and then now he goes for 115 million. But doesn't seem to be performing like it. But that's a topic that we'll get to later on in the stream. Matty, with yourself, I'll just ask you in relation to Pedro. Then, where would you think we'd fire Pedro? Then is flop, bad? Any strong or indifferent opinions about him?
I think it's a great bit of business from them, to be fair, because he's already come to England 2-3 years ago at Watford, so he's got used to the lifestyle of England and embedded himself into the country. And now's probably his time where he'll shine. I mean, I spoke to a Fluminense fan, and the expectation for this lad from them is like the sky's the limit for him, sort of thing. Yeah. So I do think it's a great bit of business. But based off his first few performances, I know he's got a goal, and now he hasn't looked great. So then you'd probably say he's more of a good. But I think it's a great bit of business on him, and it will prove to be someone who is massive for them.
Yeah, I think it's a good bit of business as well. It's definitely they're building for the future and their next couple of £100 million selling players. So it doesn't shock me at all. Race, Naum, do you have any contradicting opinions on that? Do you think that's something similar to, or do you think something similar to Matty there in relation to that, or is there any other opinion that you might have in relation to Pedro?
No, I'm pretty much on the same train there. I think could be really turn out to be a great signing for them. Again, just in the business they have right now and turning, these smaller fees into bigger fees later on. So we'll keep an eye on him for sure.
Liam, same opinion?
I think so. Yeah, I've been a long time admirer of him. I think great bit of business. Obviously, I what was it? His first goal was a penalty, wasn't it? Yeah, it was. I don't think that detracts from him as a player in any way. I don't know that anyone was saying he was, but I think he's a top class striker on his day, and I think he could be sort of nursed under De Zerbi to be something really special, especially if they sell off Evan Ferguson in a few years. So it's great bit of business.
I'd agree with you on that. I think he is one for the future, and if De Zerbi stays there and he doesn't leave, I think Brighton could be a very, very potent team in a couple of years to come as well. And not that they're not now, but I think their potency could continue through the next 5-6 years. With the guys that they're bringing in, because it's just a great squad turnover that it's on at the moment. And then the last player that we have, the player that they got on loan from Barcelona, Fati. Anybody have any strong opinions one way or the other about him? Where do we think we'd rank them? Feel free to shout and go. Same in the chat, guys. If anybody in the chat or the comments wants to throw in opinions on where we think we should put any of these players, please feel free to fire it in. I'll make sure I save the comment. If you talk about somebody further up the list, I'll save the comment and we'll come back to it once we get on to that player as well. So feel free to do that. And if you haven't already, do give us a like and a subscribe. If you have done that already, give us a share, and also make sure you have the notification bell on too, just for any future streams or videos with ourselves. Anybody, any strong opinions? Left, right, center, up, down, good, bad, shite for Fati from Barcelona? He was alone.
If he stays fit, he's going to be a fantastic signing for them. But then they have no option to buy, do they?
So no, it's purely a loan for a year.
Yeah, he could have the season of his life and then just go back to Barca. So in that aspect, it's a poor bit of business. But if he stays fit, he's unbelievable. He's absolutely unbelievable. So for them to get a player of that stature, it's massive for them. Like, he could potentially be in and around like the most goals and assists in the league this year if he stays fit.
That's the thing, though. It's a big if he stays fit, along with the fact of it's all well and good having him on a borrow or on a loan for a season, and then all of a sudden for him to be gone, you get no long-term benefit out of it, I suppose, whereas Barcelona are kind of getting the best benefit out of this. Now, if we were discussing Barcelona's business in relation to him, I think it's a fantastic bit of business. Send him to it's not to give a slight to Brighton, but not a top team in England, and let him embed himself into the squad, into the Premier League, and let him grow from there. He either lights the world on fire and you have £100 million player, or he flops and you can just let him go and do something in that range with him. But I think it's a good bit of business by Barcelona to let him go and flourish like that. I'm not convinced it was good by Brighton. But at the end of the day, Brighton are only paying wages. They're not buying him. I think it's a bit of good business by them to get him in for a loan and have him there as depth. He may not play. He may play, depending on his fitness. But if he comes in and lights it up and gets them a fairly decent spot this season and gets them Champions League football, who are we to say at the end of the season that this wasn't a great signing? Naomi and Race, would you be in an opinion of that as well, or have you, would you contradict us and or disagree with us? Should I say? Probably be the better word.
I think it's. I'm a little curious as to if Barcelona are loaning him out, and if he's such a great talent, he is. What's kind of the why are they loaning him out? And sure to get that game experience, but if they can't just fit him in their team this season, so I do a little. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So sometimes, it's like I wonder about that part, but it's certainly an interesting move. Like it kind of shocked us all, I think, to see Brighton loan in a player of that caliber, and of course, injuries are kind of the big thing. So
yeah,
and Brighton, of course, they just lost. I forget his name. One of their main attackers to an injury. So certainly for the time being, could help out in that aspect. And of course, they do have the Europa League this year, so getting a little more depth this year for that as they look to challenge on multiple fronts. So from that aspect, I'd certainly say, a good piece of business there.
Naomi, in agreement? Do you think he's good bit of business, bad bit of business, or is this something that Brighton have maybe reached on in the last couple of days of the window?
Good bit of business, I'd say. Like, it's obviously depending if he stays fit. Also, I mean, there's definitely squad concerns. It's just like you don't want to stifle almost the meteoric rise of some of their wingers that they've had, because it's like what is it now? A Dingra, Jurrien Caicedo. Obviously, Karamatoma is always killing it. I think there's a question to be made about. Obviously, it's really good depth. You really don't want to sort of rust up any of those sort of hot firing wingers right now. I don't know, but yeah, in general, considering the more fixtures they have this season, good depth.
Yeah, I think there's a lot. It's teetering on great if he performs, but it could also just turn out to be okay or bad if he doesn't do anything and just sits on the bench and burns a hole in the salary packet. Like, so I think good is an okay one because we're going off the presumption that he will do stuff this year for Brighton. Moving on to the belle of the ball of the Premier League that have yet to get their first point, I think. And that would be Luton Town. And if my memory serves correct, and somebody correct me if I'm wrong, this is Tim Krul. I think I'm right in saying that because it looks like him. Nice to see him back in the Premier League, I suppose. Getting that paycheck, maybe trying to imitate Ben Foster with Wrexham, I suppose. Any thoughts on this, lads? This kind of came out of the blue for me. I didn't expect this at all. Luton have made a couple of signings, but I think this is probably the biggest name that they've gotten. Now, outside of Ogbene from Ireland, with a very, very speedy right winger, played very well against France despite the 2-0 loss. I think he'd be a good signing for them as well, brought in on a free transfer, but in this instance, it's Krul that's here. Any thoughts, opinions on him? Anybody in the chat have any opinions on him in relation to him, or is it just fine? Is it okay? What do you guys think?
For the size of where we've gone from, they're probably thinking this is a great bit of business for us because he is a good Premier League keeper. To him, he's not great, but he's like, I agree with you. They're probably going to break the all-time points record, but I think he'll go away and help them maybe get 1 or 2 points.
I think they'll, to be honest with you, I think they might I think they'll be basically relegated by Christmas. I won't lie to you. I don't think they'll win a game this side of Christmas. I think they might steal a point. Do you know what? And I hope it happens because I will laugh my ass off if it happens. They rob a point off United or they beat United. I can smell it coming. It's going to happen. And I think it would genuinely be hilarious if that's the only team they beat the whole season. It would be genuinely priceless. And I don't think any United fan would ever live that down, which for us is a great thing. Race, Naomi, any difference of opinion? Just an okay bit of business, a good bit of business?
I'd say okay. Just, Luton are kind of a position, again, a newly promoted side and just the stature of their club. Just kind of getting players in that have that Premier League experience and, have performed, at the Premier League level, I think is a goal of getting players in. You just want to know what you want to know what you have in your squad. So, yeah, just an okay move, I guess, for me. We know what Krul is, nothing special.
Yeah, I reckon that's about the same. Naomi, you're in agreement with that? Just...
Yeah,
fine.
No strong feelings about that one. Just necessary experience, let's call it.
Yeah, that's it. Very quickly moving on to Crystal Palace, and we have Dean Henderson as the goalkeeper, and then we have Francia as the new centre attacking midfielder that they've just purchased as well. We'll start with Dean Henderson moving from United to Crystal Palace. I think it's just fine by them. I don't see what benefit he brings to their squad. I don't see if he makes them 10 times better or 10 times worse. I think it's just adding numbers to the pot for depth, maybe for a cup game or two. I'm not 100% sure on that signing. A couple of these signings have actually baffled me, to be honest, but it is what it is. I suppose I'm not the one sitting in the sporting director's box that makes these decisions, thank God. Anybody, any strong opinions one way or the other? Because this one confuses the hell out of me, to be honest.
Not really, no.
I think it's okay business. I don't think it improves Palace, like you said. I don't think it makes them worse. I think for Dean Henderson, it's a good move in his career. Palace are a steady Premier League side. He'll probably play more, but it's okay business, not bad. That's what it's not good, but it's not bad. So it's just
it's just okay. It's grand. Race, same opinion, just fine.
Yeah, I mean, he's already on his 4th Premier League team, and he's only 26 years old. I think that kind of says all what you need to know. Is he's just kind of bouncing around, and again, for him, good career. A good career move just to find a landing spot. But okay.
I reckon it's just pretty much just bang average. And then we have Francia. I believe that's how you pronounce it. He's either Franca or Franca, one or the other, because there's like a little thing under the C in relation to that. Any thoughts? Anybody in the chat have any thoughts in relation to him? Jamie Hughes, Henderson is homegrown.
I just have that Cam as okay as well. I think Palace had an okay summer, to be honest. Don't think it was it was good. Don't think it was bad. I think it was just okay. But to be fair, this kid may end up becoming a good or a great sign, and we've seen Palace develop players, but I think for now he's just an okay sign.
Given what we've seen so far, I think it's just okay. Palace have just done okay business. To be honest, I think that's probably why they weren't too pushed to sell Decore, purely on the basis that they haven't really brought much in a matter of replacements or reinforcements to be able to help that kind of a loss of a player. So it's not all that shocking, really. Anybody else opposite opinions of that? Do you think he's a better signing? I think he's just bang okay. Nothing necessarily great about it. Could turn into a great signing if he ends up performing well. If he flops, I suppose we'll drop him down as well. We can go back and review this at the end of the season too and see if we were right in our predictions of how they come as well. I think that'll be a good idea. Moving on from Palace, we have Bournemouth and we have Adams, their new CDM, and then we have Kluivert as well. I think I'm butchering the pronunciation of that as well. Kluivert, there we go. Thank you. Forgive me, English is my second language. I'm Irish. We'll start with Adams, CDM, new signing into Bournemouth. I think it's okay to good business. I don't necessarily think, again, in my own opinion, he makes them world beaters or all that much better. I think he gains them maybe a position or two in the table with help, but I don't think it's majorly good business. I just think it's fine. Is anybody else have a different opinion in relation to that?
I guess I should chime in as for my fellow American Tyler Adams, but I think it was good to see him just be back in the Premier League. I think he's certainly a good player. He's struggled with injuries, and certainly with the Premier League, the physicality that it has, that's can be a concern. I think he's definitely had a better time when he was playing in the Bundesliga than the Premier League. So I'm just interested to see how he does with Bournemouth. I put him in the middle of that good to okay category. Just because I think with Leeds, Leeds were just such a mess defensively, and I think I know he's hurt at the end of last season too. So just kind of wait and see on him.
I think he would just be on the cusp of this good to okay. Like he could turn into a good signing and help them quite a bit, but I think for the moment, I think it's okay. Naum, Maddie, same opinions? Any different opinions? Something similar to that, or are you going to come in with a controversial opinion? Because I have a couple of controversial opinions about some of these later signings.
I think maybe with the whole CDM saga that we had going on, it was a point of interest for a few clubs. I think for bigger clubs further up the table, it's depth and it's quality depth. It's a bit of almost a Calvin Phillips kind of thing for City, because he is on his day a quality CDM. And looking at statistics that people like, I think there was a lot of graphs that Sorka on Twitter put out with him featured in it, and he is among illustrious company in that regard. There's a lot of statistics that make him quite favourable, especially as sort of a younger guy, as just sort of a backup option for Bournemouth. I do think he could be in the good thing already, in the good category. Maybe, depending on how he did, if he recovered from injury well and sort of kept it that way, if in the context of a smaller club like Bournemouth, who maybe are trying to scrape a few more points here and there, a few more, ball-winning situations, he could be great maybe in their terms. I don't know about being a world beater, obviously, in the context of the whole Premier League, but to them, maybe further up for me.
Race, would you be in agreement with that, Maddie? Do you think he could move further up? Because he is right on the cusp of it. Anybody in the chat want to chime in as well, please feel free. We want to value all opinions here. So
he was nearly signing for Chelsea until they got
Everybody was nearly signing for Chelsea. My grandmother was nearly signing for Chelsea.
With a factor in that, and obviously Liverpool looked at him as well. On his day, Tyler Adams is a fantastic holding midfielder. So for Bournemouth, from what they had, he's definitely good business.
Yeah, we'll move him up to good.
Transfer window as a whole, it's just one of them signings you're not really asked about, but
yeah,
it's good business for Bournemouth, to be fair.
Yeah, it's hopefully it all works out for them. And then we have Kluivert. Then, I'm not very familiar with him myself, so I'll divert to my fellow colleagues here in the panel and the chat as well to educate me on him. Race, give me if you know anything about him and yourself, give me a couple of comments on him and what you think of him. Do you think he could do a number for Bournemouth or?
Well, just looking at his numbers, kind of a winger type and a kind of a low goal scoring winger. And what kind of value does that bring, especially to a side like Bournemouth, where goals are gonna be hard to come by anyway, and then you add someone who just hasn't scored too many goals. And he's only 24 years old, so certainly has some potential, or can improve a little bit. But it's just no strong feelings here, just okay for me.
Naum, Matty, same opinion, just okay business with Bournemouth, or more of a depth signing to see if he can kind of do a number with them, or is there any? Do you think he's going to be a good or a great signing, or do you think he's just going to flop?
I think it's an okay to bad signing. I agree with Paul in those comments. That he's only in the Prem because his dad's Patrick Kluivert. He's awful. Like I watched him. I think he was at PSV maybe, or was it PSV? And I've seen stuff like a little bits of him, and he's not that good. So I think for the money they spent on him, they could have probably got better options than they did. So for that reason, I'd say bad to okay. I think he's just
Naum, in agreement with that? Just he's in there on name only, or do you think he has a bit of ability that could do Bournemouth some good?
I think it has a negative tinge to it. I agree with Matty. I think, especially considering, if I remember correctly, I don't know if I'm maybe thinking about the right guy. Doesn't he have quite a long injury history?
Yeah,
he's out quite a few times a season for every team he's in, isn't he? But so I mean, I don't know if that's a big issue for Bournemouth, whether he's going to be on a rotational basis and it doesn't matter anyway. But if he's expecting regular game time and they want that from him, it might become an issue where can you really afford injuries in positions like that if you are Bournemouth?
Yeah, it's as you mentioned if you look at it in the full context of the transfer, like if you sign somebody for that much money, it screams Naby Keita to me. To be perfectly honest with you, the guy comes in with breadsticks for legs, and now, in fairness, I guess we didn't spot that. Like, unfortunately, we don't have United's medical team that can find injuries left, right, and centre, and then sign players regardless. But I think it's, given what you guys have said in the description that you've given, if he is the player that you guys are describing, I think that's terrible business by Bournemouth, and I think he could genuinely just actually be detrimental to them. Especially for the fee that was paid for him. Like they could, as Matty said, they could have gotten an awful lot better options in relation to that. Moving on to Aston Villa. The first one that we have here is Tielemans. Came over from Leicester. I'll go through these quickly because we have a big chunk of them and I want to get to the big boys fairly quickly. So we'll kind of go through the other teams fairly quickly now at the moment. Did anybody have any opinions on them? We'll do a quick fire. So I'll go top. So Maddie, give me your opinions on Tielemans. Good, bad, great, decent signing for Villa. What do you think?
Okay business. Good depth. He's not going to play every week, but it's okay business for them.
Yeah. Race Diaby, next player in it. What do you think? Good business, bad business?
I think it could be good to great. I think Villa, this is a really aggressive move for them. Spending some big money on a winger who had a really good season for Leverkusen, and of course they have the Conference League, another European competition this season. So he's one where if he has a really good season, I wouldn't be surprised if some bigger clubs come knocking, and that price drives up. So I think those. I think it'd be good to great moves for Villa there.
I would throw him up right at the top of good there, and we see he can obviously move up to great if needs be. Naum, then we have Pau Torres, centre back that they brought in. Give me a couple of your thoughts on him and where do you think he should land into this? And if the lads disagree, please feel to chime in. And then also, if anybody in the chat disagrees, feel free to chime in as well.
I think that's for me okay to good business. I think his relationship with the manager. He's Europa League like level, I suppose, sort of because they're in the Conference League now, aren't they? So maybe one for the future as well. Reliable guy, and like I said, he knows his way around the manager's system, I suppose. Yeah, good to okay.
Yeah,
okay to good, sorry.
I reckon right up here, just at the top of the okay, maybe teetering on good would probably be a good shout for him. Matty, we'll move on to you then when we get to our West Ham United signings. The first one we have is Kudos, centre attack and midfielder.
Good,
yeah.
And especially because it's West Ham as well, you'd never expect someone of his talent and ability to go to West Ham. I think the only reason I wouldn't put him in great is because quite a few players have struggled to make the Dutch from the Eredivisie to the Prem.
Yeah.
So I think he has the potential to be a great, if not world-class signing for West Ham. But I'd put him in good for now just to see how he adjusts to the Prem because he's a fantastic player.
Yeah. And then we have Alvarez Reyes, the centre defensive midfielder from Mexico that has been signed by Villa as well, clearly spending that Declan Rice money well. Where do you think this guy should land? Top, bottom, middle, good, bad, and different?
I think just good for now. I think he's a quality sign, like you said, investing that Declan Rice money, a position that obviously Rice left behind. So again, I think West Ham kept it really late in their transfer window to make these moves, but at least they did them, and we'll see how they do. And of course, they have Europa League as well, so more depth to that team.
Yeah, it's the Europa League. I think is going to kill the European competitions. I think are going to kill an awful lot of players in this purely because they won't have the depth, and I think it'll kill a lot of teams, the likes of a Brighton or a Newcastle. I don't think it'll go far in them competitions purely because of the lack of depth that they have. We'll move on then to the last West Ham signing that we have, which is James Ward-Prowse. Now, I personally, myself, I think this is a fantastic bit of business by them. But, Naomi, I'll give you the opportunity to voice your case on this and what you think it should be.
Agreed. I think that's a really sort of, to be honest, for me, it's good to great. I think now having that sort of double pivot with Alvarez and him able to sort of make those plays from deeper on and then, building up a big sort of set piece focus for a team like West Ham. I think, that's a really good piece of transfer business.
Yeah, I think so as well, purely because of his set piece ability too. Like we've seen it in the first game that he came in, could definitely be what Jamie Hughes mentions here is the bargain of the window, but we'll see if he keeps it up. But yeah, I do genuinely think that he could do very well for them there. Moving on from West Ham, we then have Sheffield United, and the first player that we have here is Cameron Archer. Matty, good, bad, indifferent? Think it's a good signing for them. I mean, he came on and done a wonder for my fantasy Premier League team the first week he was starting for them. So I'll say I've nothing but good things to say about him. Give me a couple of your thoughts on him.
He's very good potential player. It's whether he lives up to that potential, really. So I'd put him under the okay bracket. But if he then reaches his potential, he's definitely good to great for Sheffield United. When you consider the size of the club, he has got a good reputation, but I'd say he's just okay,
Okay, for the moment. And then the next one that we have then after that race is Davies, should I say, excuse me. So if can you give me a couple of your opinions on him, what you think or anything like that?
Well, I think it's just kind of an okay move. Obviously moving on from another Premier League team to another, it's just, I think it's okay. Nothing real strong there for me.
Yeah, just okay. Fair enough.
I'd put him in the potential to flop because he definitely will flop because he's crap.
Do you reckon? Right. Well, we've a one saying okay to good, and then we have another guy saying flop. Naomi, you can be the tiebreaker here. Where do you think he should go?
I honestly don't know. I couldn't tell you. I don't really want to be the tiebreaker. I don't know. I don't know if you can really flop at that level. I don't think there's much expectation put on him. So for the simple fact of he might go under the radar, I think he'll be okay. No one's really going to bat an eyelid if he doesn't do very well.
Yeah, I think we'll split the difference and put him at the end of the okay, close to bad range, I think. And Matty, you are right with that. I know you might be thinking he is going to flop, and he probably will. But
the only reason I say that is obviously I've got a lot of mates who are Blues, and they all hated them. Now, if Everton are hating you, they're pretty bad. So I think Sheffield United are expecting him to be all right, but he really is bad. So I just want to see him flop, to be honest.
Fair enough. personal vendetta there. Moving on to the next door neighbours in Everton, and we have Danjuma as the first option. I'll start with yourself, Matty, on this, just as you finished up there. Couple of opinions on your local neighbours there and their signing in relation to that. Any feelings, thoughts on it one way or the other?
I think both of Everton's signings are going to flop. And that's not even being bitter. I'm going to show you why. Give me a second. So they signed this player, didn't they? That striker, and he scored for them. And this is the picture some of my mates are sending around. So for that reason, they're both going to flop. But Danjuma's going to flop as well because they think they've signed Cristiano Ronaldo or something, and it's not that good. So.
I think Paul is hitting the nail on the head there. He went to Everton because nobody else wanted him. So I'd be of the same opinion. I think he's going to be absolutely useless, as with all Everton signings will be absolutely useless. Racing, Naum, is there much point in spending much time on either Danjuma or Beto? Do you think they're both going to flop? Now, I think Beto has some ability in him, but I think because he's at Everton, I don't think they have the capability of developing any stars. They haven't since Rooney or Seamus Coleman, to be honest with you.
Yeah, with Danjuma, he was loaned out to Spurs last year and didn't really do anything. And it's kind of when you're loaned out and he's already 26 years old, when clubs just kind of putting you out, it's kind of the writing's on the wall already. And so I think him just going to Everton is, he's going to get some minutes there. He's going to help them in their relegation battle. Again, I wouldn't say flop just because of at the price tag won't be too. I'd say bad. Yeah, would be my kind of position there because they will rely on him for goals. And I don't think, even though he did get one recently, but I don't think he's gonna be anything useful for them.
Naum, Beto, any opinions on him? Good, bad, indifferent? We'll try and move off the toffees as quick as we can before we get a sour taste in our mouth.
I think he looked fairly lively in the game more recently. I think he could be one maybe to watch. Not like in any sort of meaningful terms, but for them, if you think about who they have up front, it's like you're considering people of obviously the most injury-prone man of them all, Calvert-Lewin, and then the most useless striker I've ever seen was Ellis Sims. Yeah, it's some of the most terrible attacking depth I've seen in my entire life. So anything is an improvement for them.
To be honest, I think I could start for Everton at this rate. I'm not going to lie to you.
You honestly could. It's like Danjuma. He is a bit like, I don't want to sully St. Maximin's name, but it's sort of like dancing on the touchline, no end result. It's just like he's never been very favoured in my eye, to be honest.
Yeah, so. I think Paul hits the nail on the head there that a prime Pele or Messi would flop at Everton under Sean Dyche. And Charlie in the comments as well. I'm assuming this is Charlie has also mentioned that Beto will be all right. Reckon 10 to 15 goals, which is prime R9 for Everton fans.
Yeah, for that reason, he's an okay signing because they went from Calvert-Lewin, who's always injured or modelling, to someone who's actually.
We'll smack him in the middle of bang average. So
yeah, for them, they've won the lottery. I mean, they're calling him LA for Christ's sake. So, I think he's an all right sign. Yeah.
We'll watch Ellis Sims play. That guy is terrible.
We'll bang him there. So, right now on to Burnley, and then we have Bayer, however you pronounce his surname, the dope that gave me -1 in my last week of Fantasy Premier League. New centre back for Burnley. All the way under Vincent Kompany and his illustrious coaching career. Any strong opinions? I'll give it to yourself, Naum, in this one. What do you think about him as a signing?
I couldn't tell you, to be honest. I'm not very well versed in his career, to be honest. I mean, let's put it at okay. I'd say it's
we'll put a bang average.
I'd have to see something special from a Burnley man to convince me that like anything at that level is a really shrewd transfer. I don't know.
I think all of Burnley's business has been okay, and it'll probably keep them up.
I reckon that'll be. I think a lot of their signings are going to fall into. Okay, Race, I'll move the next one on to yourself, and it is. Bear with me 1 second. I have the name here. Ramsey, centre attacking midfielder, brought in this summer. Any thoughts and opinions on him? How do you think he'll do with them? Do you think he'll do a number?
I think I put that as a good move, personally, just to, you take a chance kind of on a younger player. I think it's of course Burnley are now, or at least they say that they want to be a more attacking side, and that's kind of the football they've been playing, which got them up to the Premier League. So this would kind of fall in line with that. So I think I like this move actually. Good move there.
Yeah, I'd be somewhat in agreement with you. Anybody else disagree with that, or?
No, if he's anything like his brother, he might be good.
Yeah, I reckon so as well. And then we have the young Trafford that has just signed a new goalkeeper. Maddie, thoughts on him? Young 20-ish-year-old English goalkeeper going to Burnley. Do you think that'll be a good move for his career to improve him? Will he be getting proper minutes there to be able to develop further?
I think it's a good sign if you look at the long-term aspect of it, but I think he could be regarded maybe as a flop this year because people are expecting too much of him. So I just put him probably like okay or bad. I mean, he's a fantastic talent, but he's made the jump really from League One football to Premier League football, and I think too many people are expecting too big a thing of him. He's definitely got talent, and he definitely will be one of England's best keepers in years to come, but I don't think this season he's at that level yet where people are expecting him to be.
I have a feeling it's going to be similar to Southampton's Gavin Bazunu, my Irish countryman as well, where he's made the jump from being in League One and Championship teams to then going and getting into the Premier League and then all of a sudden getting slapped about the place. Now, maybe it wasn't all his fault. To be fair, if anybody's seen the goal that Chouameni got against Ireland for France the other night, it was a world beater. And I thought Bazunu could have done better in that regard, but I think it'll be something similar in relation to this, that he's just made a bit too much of a jump and he might have bitten off a little more than he could chew in relation to this. So he could suffer from it, but he could also blossom from it. So I think bang average and okay is at the moment. At the end of the season, we could have him up as a great signing if he does a proper number for them. Now, on to the bigger teams then in relation to that. So we have Mr. Declan Rice, the £100 million man. Maddie, I'll ask you in relation to this, and we'll work our way back down again. Good signing, great signing, okay signing, considering the money, or is he a world-class signing? Are we going to have our first world-class signing thrown in?
He's a great signing. He's fantastic, Declan Rice, and I think the price tag gets spoken about too much, but in the modern-day market, that's how much midfielders were going for this year because midfielders were so in demand by so many clubs. Next summer, it'll be strikers. But Declan Rice is a great sign. He's unbelievable, I think. I know you might be a bit bitter because he switched to him.
No, I'm not bitter. I'm not bitter because he's an Englishman who came over, played for us, and then went back. I'd be more bitter if it was an Evan Ferguson situation where he's a big Dublin lad, and then he says, do you know what, I'm going to play for England. His family would be put into witness protection if he did that. I'm not going to lie to you. But I'm not so much bitter about it. I think Irish people were more bitter about it because he came and worked his way up through the youth system, and he was going around kissing the badge and everything like that, and then basically gave everybody the two fingers, was like, I'm going playing for the next door neighbours. It's very tribal in Ireland in relation to the squads and the players that we follow. Like in local teams as well, there could be 5 local teams in the one small town catchment area, and they're all the most bitter rivals. It's like a Merseyside derby every time they all play together. And because we all go to school together and we all would have lived and gone to the pub together, like we all love each other outside of it, we all hate each other inside the pitch. So it's that sort of a thing. We're very tribal in that aspect. So it's quite entertaining. It's like a Merseyside derby every weekend. It's fantastic. Someone always gets a leg broke. It's unreal. We'll move on then to David Raya. Race, think it's a good signing. This is one that really confused the hell out of me considering Ramsdale is there already. But any thoughts? Good, bad, indifferent?
I think it's okay. And yeah, I'm with you. It kind of confused me as well. And of course, their old backup Matt Turner, he went to Nottingham Forest, and Ramsdale. I don't think Ramsdale necessarily anything special. I think he's a solid Premier League goalkeeper. I don't know. It's just okay. It just didn't make a lot of sense for me. Why they would just kind of swap out their backup goalkeepers, or maybe they intended to play Raya more. Just kind of an interesting move there. After all the other business they did, they have some good moves.
Yeah, I think it confused the hell out of me. And Naomi, then I'll move on to yourself with the signing of Timber. Now, unfortunately, he got all of a half an hour of a game, but we'll go off potential because I don't think it's fair to judge him on the 30 minutes that he got before he absolutely blew his knee out. Give me a couple of your thoughts on what you think he could do for Arsenal going forward, and we'll rate him on that.
I think in his first game for Arsenal, he looked brilliant. Like, athletic is the word that comes to mind. Sort of fast, like imposing himself on the pitch. Arsenal fans were over the moon with that performance. It's a real shame that obviously this happened to him. I think it's good to great. It's exactly where you're holding it. I think because you came in at left back for them in the game that he debuted in. Incorrect. And it's like now they're playing some system with Partey at right back, and I think they're definitely missing him. I think that there's a clear reason they brought him in. He fills a hole in the squad. It's for the price. It's incredibly shrewd. I would have loved to have him at Liverpool. I think. For what they got him for, it's good to great, no doubt.
Yeah, and I agree with that. And just to comment on what Jerry has said here, our number 3 jumped out of the way, giving Bazunu no chance. Pathetic from footballers, afraid to get hit by a ball. I don't know if you've seen the shot that Tchouaméni hit, but I'd be afraid to get hit by that too. That was a bullet. It was a serious goal, and I think it only broke my heart a little bit even more. Not that it was a goal against Ireland, but that could have been a Liverpool player, and that just broke my heart a little bit more in relation to that. We'll move on then to the signing of the season for Matty to review, Kai Havertz. What do you think about Kai? Flop. Absolute flat. Yeah, I don't think anybody's going to disagree with you on that. He's been absolutely useless. I think if you stack shit 6 foot tall and put an Arsenal jersey on it, it'd perform better. I don't know what that signing was about. The fact that Chelsea got 60 million for him, 65 million pounds for him is absolute daylight robbery, in my own opinion on that. I think Jamie is correct. That's a massive bust of a signing, and I think we'll find a couple more of these as we go up through it. Forest, however, I think have done some serious business. And Reyes, I'm going to hand it over to you to review the man, the myth, the legend that is Divock Origi. I'm happy to see him back in the Premier League.
Can we put him in world class, right?
Yeah, I reckon we have to. I think it has to go there.
I mean, it was awesome. You know, he's got 27 back on again. He's in red. What he said up the Reds in his first video or whatever. You know, it's perfect. You know, of course, we hope we don't see one of those late winners against us. You know, we certainly don't want to see that. But
he's playing against Everton on April 20th. I guarantee you he scores the goal that puts them down, and I will absolutely die laughing.
Don't get me excited.
If he just scores in both those fixtures, that's world class enough.
If he scores in both of those and no other fixtures, I think that would be beautiful. I think that would just be poetry in motion. Right. Well, that's our first world class signing. We have Divock Origi, the man, the myth, the legend, up there as our first world class. Naum Elanga, left winger that they got from United. I think this is generally a good bit of business, to be honest with you, considering the talent that this Swede has. What do you think yourself?
I'm not sure why they sold him, to be honest. I think, you know, I'd grown up in Manchester. All my family are from there. So, you know, I heard all the songs about Elanga. They love him. I don't know why he's been sold off. It's a very Forest FFP, transfer, I think, though. I mean, yeah, I suppose, yeah. It's very Forest transfer. I think it's really good for them. It's nice to see that they're sort of going for someone of his ilk, where he's younger. I think it's definitely good. I'd put it in good. He's younger. He's really talented. It's sort of moving away from the Forest of playing 33 players a season and moving towards more sure starters with future potential. That's what you want to see from someone like that. You know, establishing yourself in the Prem.
Yeah, it is. I think he's going to do great for them. I think United have only gotten rid of him because he was a casualty of numbers. I genuinely think it was a terrible move by them, and Paul agrees here. He said it's a terrible move by United to sell him. I think so as well. And Charlie's in here mentioning that Sangare is great, top 5 DMs in the Prem already. Clearly somebody has a bit of a crush. Matty, I'll go to you to challenge Charlie, if you will, or do you agree with him? Think it's a great signing by them?
I put him in great to well. For Forest, it's a world-class signing in that aspect. He is unbelievable. I can't understand why Forest have got him and we got Endo. Like, he's unbelievable. And we're probably going to end up being linked to him next year, like we were Chick-the-Corey for like 70 mil. He's got the potential to be one of the greatest DMs in the world. He's like Charlie said, he is probably in the top 5 DMs in the Prem. Like, he's that.
I would have had him and Florento Luis fairly similar in a player comp, and I think Florento Luis would have been at 23 years old was as good as Fabinho was in his prime. And I think Sangara could be very similar in that. So I don't disagree with you there. I think that's a fantastic bit of business by them. And that kind of came out of the blue as well, coming down to deadline day, which is even better business for them. Then moving on, then we have Fulham and we have Iwobi as a centre attacking mid. Race, couple of comments on Iwobi. Where do you think we should fire him?
I've just never really been impressed with Iwobi ever since, he was at Arsenal and then Everton and now again on his third Premier League club already. I'm just not a fan of this. I would okay to bad would kind of be my verdict on this one.
I'd say bad as well. It's a bad bit of he's on massively.
Yeah, I'd say bad. Yeah,
we throw him in bad. So fair enough. Naum, then we have Castagne, Italian right back, brought in then in the summer as well. Any thoughts or opinions on him?
Yeah, I don't know. I think probably middle of the park. What's their defensive situation like? I suppose I'd have to sort of review and have a look at who they actually have.
Yeah,
but I'll go middle of the park pending review, I suppose.
Yeah,
that's where Fulham want to be. Solid transfers anyway. It's nothing to knock them on.
Bang average right in the middle. Like, it's an okay signing that adds depth. We don't know if he's going to do any much of a number for them at the moment. We'll move on then. I think that's everybody. Is it for... No, I'd like. We have Calvin Bassey. Matty, couple of thoughts on Bassey. Good signing, bad signing in relation to Fulham. What do we think?
I think for Fulham, it's an okay sign. To be fair, he was very good for Stephen. Was he at Rangers? Gerrard? He was very good at Rangers anyway, and he was solid at Ajax. So I think for Fulham, like Liam says, it's what they want to do, good business, and I think it's just an okay sign. To be fair, he's got all the characteristics really to be a good player.
I think so too. It could develop very much. Calvin could very much land up in this good at the top of the good tier by the end of the season, depending on his performances. But yeah, it's one of them sort of tweener ones that could fall anywhere in between here. We'll move on then to always the bridesmaid but never the bride in Spurs, and we have Udogie, I believe is how you pronounce his name, that was signed this summer. Race, give me a couple of your thoughts on him as a player. Do you think it's a good signing by Spurs? Are they spending that Harry Kane money for good?
Yeah, I think that's
you're being warned here too, by the way.
Yeah, I'd say good. A good player for them. I think slots in nice. I think in a left back position. I'm not sure if he was signed this summer, loaned out, or this is kind of his first season back with Spurs. So this is kind of his first run in with the team. I think one to look out for. Maybe could challenge to be in that top half of left backs in the league. Maybe top 5, whatever. But I like the move here.
So we're going to go good.
No, I'm going to say great.
I'd say
great to well.
I think he tears it up. Honestly, I was like I said, I've got friends who love this guy, support Tottenham, and under Ange, I'm hearing people talk about him as sort of the perfect inverted wing back for his system. Watching him play, he looks electric. I could see him, given his age, I could see him in a Real Madrid shirt in a few years, no problem. It's that sort of transfer.
Yeah, I think so as well. Moving on then to the team that decided to try and sign everyone this summer, FFPFC in Chelsea, and we have I lied. We've some Spurs players. My bad. I'm jumping the gun because I want to make fun of Chelsea. That's my bad. I want to make fun of Chelsea and all their signings.
We'll get to it.
We've Micky van de Ven next. It'd be the next signing that we're looking at. So what do we guys think about him?
Great.
Yeah.
Great.
I wish we would have signed him.
Yeah, I reckon as well. He was linked with us for so long. I'm shocked we didn't.
Yeah, I agree with this. To be fair, I think he could drop into just an average Premier League player, but early signs would say he's a great sign for Tottenham. He's definitely an improvement.
Yeah, it's not like they could have gotten much worse. And to be fair, I wouldn't mind. They're still leaking goals, Tottenham, but it's a work in progress. It's Ange's first season, so I guess we'll go from there. Then we have James Maddison, which I think is a fantastic signing for them. Naum, I'll give you an opportunity to speak on this. Do you think it's something similar? Fantastic signing for Spurs?
Well, I've always had strong opinions about Maddison. None of them good. Not. I don't. hate him as a baller or anything. I just always thought he had a very punchable face. That's the unfortunate truth of it. I've always said that if I could clock one Premier League player, it'd be him. But I have to admit, he has been brilliant for Spurs so far. I would put him in great.
Perfect. We'd throw him up there in great. And to be honest with you, I think he doesn't have the most punchable face in the league.
Maybe not
I think that's a title that is solely and only held by Bruno Fernandes, to be perfectly honest with you. He's such a ratty looking. I won't swear because I just keep going. And then the last we have is for Spurs, I have it written down here, is Johnson that they got over from, I believe it was Brentford, was it? That they signed him over just in the last day of the window. From Forest. Apologies. It's Matty, couple of your thoughts on him as a signing. He's right winger, can play striker. I suppose they have Son playing in the middle now at the moment. But do you think he's a good signer for them, or was it a bit of a last-ditch effort to try and get attack and help?
No, I think when you're way up that they're now moving Son to basically striker and playing him, it's a really probably good to great signing, to be fair. He was fantastic at Forest, and if that is Charlie, I completely agree with him. Tottenham have quietly had probably one of the best transfer windows out of all the sides in the Prem. They've sold Harry Kane and they look very, very good. Yeah, they are looking a little bit weak at the back, but they're getting a new keeper adjusting and stuff like that. They've got new players adjusting. When they click, they're a very, very, very good side. Probably better without Kane, dare I say it, because Everton used to be Kane, where now it's more of a team and they had some individuals. So I'd put them good to great, to be fair.
Yeah, we'll bang them up there. So now onto my favourite part of the evening, the team that tried to sign everybody. Now we have two teams coming up here that I can't wait for. So this is going to be great. The first player that we have here is Nkunku. Now, unfortunately, we can't really rate him all that much because he blew his knee out before the season had even started. We'll do something similar that we did with Timber Race. Can you give me a couple of thoughts on where he would rank on a potential rating for Chelsea? Because I think we were all a little bit terrified of him before we found out he was injured prior to us playing Chelsea on the day. And I think if he was playing us on the day, I think Chelsea would have won that game.
I put it in a good, maybe even a great move. It's just hard to say because, again, the injury, is unfortunate for him. I think this was like the one move I think we all kind of look at. It's like, okay, that's a good move. And of course, Chelsea need that striker. They need someone with goals, and they just haven't been able to produce anything this season. I'm sure they were relying on Nkunku to do that. So I do like this move, and it was done. I mean, people forget about it because it happened basically last year. The deal was done, and now it's like, okay, we've got this guy coming in. So I like this move for them. And at the price, it's not a terrible price, I don't think either.
Yeah. Naomi, with the signing then of Palmer from City, which boggled my mind again because the three of these Chelsea signings just made no sense to me whatsoever.
I don't think, to be honest, I almost think it's bad. I think he's got talent and he could have developed at City further, I guess. I would have preferred he go to a smaller club to get more game time. Yeah. But for the price they bought him at, it's a result of the last player that we've just talked about. It's the injury to Nkunku. He's a stopgap for the 16 weeks that Nkunku's out or whatever. And then I don't expect to see him there ever again. It's because they've got Nkunku and then Madueke and all these different players starting way out ahead of Cole Palmer. I just can't see him playing either in the 10 or the right mid role or anything like that. I'd see him being sat on the bench the rest of the season after everyone's fit.
Yeah, I agree with you. And Jamie was even here mentioning the rumours that Enzo Fernandez wants out if the squad doesn't move up. So where are we putting Cole Palmer in okay to bad region?
I could never allow Cole Palmer to be put as a bad signing because the potential. But I agree with Naomi. He won't play when Nkunku's fit because Nkunku is world class for me. I love Nkunku myself, same as JK. But Cole Palmer definitely. But on that comment about Diaby, I think I've just clocked, and I don't even know why we put Diaby as good. He's great. He's a great sign, and I think we should be moving him up. To be fair,
where did I have Diaby? This is a mayor.
I think good. I put him in
great. Tielemans.
He's above, and they go in the good category. I think he's a
good category
between Alvarez and Ramsey. Yeah, with the blue shirt, just towards the right.
No,
real long from the left.
Yeah.
Left.
There we go.
No, I'm the other one next one.
God, there's a lot of Aston Villa players on here.
There he is.
Very good. No, moving on up to great, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. He's unbelievable. And now they got him is a madness. He's unbelievable.
Yeah, we'll keep him up there. So now moving on to Nicholas Jackson for Chelsea. What do you think about him, Maddie? Is this a good signing? I thought he's been playing fairly well so far. But again, I think he's going to be a victim of Nkunku coming back in however many weeks he comes back after the Christmas break. I think he's going to suffer after that point. But I think between now and then, I think he could do numbers.
I mean, he's got potential. He really has. If you asked me Footy Manager, I'd tell you he's absolutely world class, and he's a drug regen because he's a cheat code on Footy Manager. But now he's a good signing. I think I'd put him in the good category. To be fair, I think Chelsea have brought some good players in. They've just brought too many players in again.
Yeah, and we'll move on now to possibly the daftest signing of the year. Race with Chelsea deciding to spend £60 million on Lavia after spending £115 million on Moises Caicedo, essentially spending more on two signings than we done on all of our midfield. I know I can probably already guess what your thoughts are on this signing, but give them to us anyway. What do you think about Lavia joining Chelsea and Chelsea signing him?
That much for a player just to sit in the stands for the game, for all their games so far. I mean, there's just no way to defend why they made this move, and he's not. And just again with Chelsea, they just buy all these players with no real plan in place, and it's a flop for me. I just don't know how. I just don't understand this move. Maybe it's just me being frustrated that, of course, we wanted him, but I'm hope Lavia enjoys sitting on the bench, for the first 4 months of the season.
Yeah, I agree with you. And as Charlie mentioned there in the chat too, he's got a muscle tear in training, so he's out for a couple of months. So things have just gone bad to worse for him. But as Matt mentioned to us in the other Matt, not Matty that we have on stream, there's another Matt in the group that we have that he mentioned to us in the chat that Lavia's kind of made his bed. The man is going to make so much money he could retire at the age of 27. So you can feel bad for him all you want, but I don't necessarily feel bad for him myself, to be perfectly honest with you. Before we move on,
because he made such a shrewd decision to go to Southampton to play, to then just throw it all away to go to Chelsea, where players just go to die. Really, I'm just disappointed in him, but it seems like it was agents. I wouldn't, if he gets in the side, he's best in Conor Gallagher, and that's where he's going to get in the side, and I think he will be a good signing for them. But it's just mad that he didn't even get a cup game start.
Yeah, but he was meant to be integrating into the side, is what was told by Poch. Yeah, I don't think Poch wants him. I think he's going to end up being loaned out next summer, and that'll be that.
Probably.
Yeah, loaned out to us. We're like, yeah, we'll have him. We'll just pay about half of his wages, meaning we get him for free, and we were going to pay him what we were going to pay him anyway. So he'll land over to us, and that'll be that. To be honest with you, seeing him as a player, and Matt said it as well in the group chat, that it's nobody held a gun to his head. He's not he doesn't seem like a stupid kid, and even a stupid kid would see they're after signing somebody for over £110 million. And they want to sign me, but he plays in the same position as me. It's almost like that scene out of The Simpsons where Homer meets Darryl Strawberry for the softball game. And he's like, are you better than me? And he's like, I don't know you, but yeah. And I'm like, it makes no sense whatsoever, that signing to me at all. I think it's going to be a flop. And that's not out of badness for the player and not out of saltiness from us as Liverpool fans because he was linked with us. I just think it's a terrible career move for Romeo Lavia. And now on to the most expensive signing to flop. I'm just going to put him here. I don't think he needs to go anywhere else than that. Does anybody have any alternating opinions on that, or do you think that's where he deserves to go?
I think he's a good sign. I think we're all just being a bit bitter.
Yeah. Just a small bit.
He's a very, 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 very good player, Moises Caicedo, to be fair to him. That's why he's went for that money. It didn't rank up in price just because we was involved. They were always going to pay over 100 million for him. He's quality. He's took a little bit of time to settle in, and maybe the price tag will get to his head a little bit, but we can't be saying he's not a good sign because he really, really is a good player.
Yeah, I just think he's going to flop. I think it's going to be hilarious. And to be honest with you, I hope I never wish an injury on a player at all, because that bad karma comes back and bites you. But I wouldn't shed a tear if somebody broke his legs. But that's just me being maybe a bit bitter.
Yeah.
Right, now moving on to our second favourite neighbours across the road in Man United. And we have Rasmus Højlund as the first signing that we're going to review here. Signed him even though they found out that he had stress fractures in his spine. Naum, I'll let you have your opinion on this and where do you think he's going to rank. Now, I did watch the Arsenal game and I thought he came on and he actually caused problems for Arsenal's back line. But again, that was on like 80 minutes, so they might have just been tired as well at the same point. But he does look like he has some of the physical ability to be a proper big striker up front.
Yeah, I think stature-wise fits the bill of a Premier League player. Sort of fast, strong, and tall. I think it's I swear he scored 9 goals at Atalanta last season, so there's a bit of proving to be done.
Yeah.
But that back thing was so funny because at first I thought he got injured in his medical, and I thought that was the first time that had ever happened. It was crazy. I mean, just like the fact that he was straight onto the bench. It's I don't know. That for me, that is, if he is all that he's lived up to be, or he's built up to be, then he could be good. But given the price they paid for him and how little evidence there is of him being like, sort of that massive transfer, it lacks the legs to put into good right now, I think, because what is it, 70 million euro for him?
72
and
or
9
73
goals.
million pounds. Like they
It's
paid
very
more
Mudryk.
for him than we did with Nunes.
Yeah, it's very Mudryk, because Mudryk's got like 12 career goals at like Shakhtar Donetsk, and they paid 88 million for him. It's like that, a bit better, I'd say. But there's a lot of spotlight on him. If he can't hack it, then that's a lot of money to be thrown away.
Yeah, and as Halor mentions here, I think Man United are also going to fall off a cliff this season. There's so much noise around them, so many scandals. So, like, Greenwood's gone, rightly so. Anthony's gone, rightly so. Well, I hope he's gone. Brazil have dropped him, and United are kind of sitting on their hands at the moment, and it just kind of goes to show how bad that club has gone. Yeah. We do talk a lot of shit about United and everything, but there was a time that they were at least a respected club. I think they've lost all of that now with all of this stuff coming out that they tried to cover it up with Anthony and everything like that too. And Jamie Hughes mentioned the whole Sancho thing of the mental health thing, and they weren't clear to disclose that, but disclosed it anyway. And then Ten Hag coming out and slating them. Now, the slating may have had warrant, but at the same time, it's. I think that dressing room's shot. I think there's players in there that are trying to get that manager out and they're just in there for a paycheck. And I think that club is on a very, very dangerous cliff at the moment. But moving on to their next signing, which is Andrew Tate or Sofyan Amrabat. Race, give me a couple of your opinions on him as a signing. They only got him as a loan with a 10 million loan fee, or if they want to pay 20 million next summer, they get him and the 10 million loan fee goes away. Did it seem like a bit of a last-ditch effort on the last bit of deadline day news for them, or was this something that they should have moved on earlier, or what do you think?
Well, of course, we were linked with him as well, and I just wasn't, a big fan of bringing him in, really. And so for United to bring him in, I'm not too upset to see them get him, a player that I didn't really want. I just don't understand, of course, they have Casemiro, kind of in that CDM role. And I'm just not a big fan of the move, to be honest. I'd say bad for me. Maybe he can put in a shift now and then, but I'm just not a fan of it overall.
Given the way that United played against Arsenal, which was counter-attacking football and sitting back, it reminded me an awful lot of how Morocco played in the World Cup. And Morocco did very, very well in the World Cup. And Amrabat, excuse me, I keep mispronouncing his name. His role was essentially a sweeper between the back line. So it's I think he could, if that's the style of football that they're going to play, I think he could do a number for them. But as it stands at the moment, I think, especially considering he's injured already, like he had an injury, a back injury, like they'd love to see they clearly don't like signing players with a spine, is what it looks like. So like I think it's a bad signing. Grace, would you agree with that?
Yeah, I agree. It's just like not a favorable move in my opinion.
Yeah, and then we have the player that was linked with ourselves, Mickey Mouse Mount. Naum, good signing, bad signing, okay signing. What do you think?
I think it's a bit bizarre because I would have expected him to have some success almost. I think I mean, I don't know if it's the sort of management that United are under, or if it's some external influence, but I think there was days at Chelsea where he looked really good, and I thought that coming into a squad like that, it's odd because they're playing sort of if I'm not wrong, they're playing like a 4-2-3-1 a lot now, and I suppose with Bruno, it's hard to make sense of where he'd fit in that, but I thought he would be all right. Clearly not. I haven't seen him do anything so far, anything of note, and now he's injured. So, given the current situation, I think you'd have to say bad, because especially with £60 million on his head, it could have been something.
And Matty, the goalkeeper that was compared to Alisson and said he was just as good as Alisson, and that he could be better than Alisson in the Premier League, and he was better with his feet than Alisson, and he was a better shot stopper than Alisson, who has let in 8 goals in 4 games, unlike Alisson. Onana, good signing, bad signing, flop. Do you think it's basically they've gone the opposite way? Like they had a player in De Gea who could stop shots but do shite all with his feet. Now they have a player that can do stuff with his feet but can't stop shots.
I think he's an okay signing because he's obviously got age on his side and stuff. But I think if you ask United fans, and because they think he's going to be world class, I'd put him in the bad category in that sense. He's not very good, to be honest. He's not great. I think a lot of people remember that Curtis Jones absolutely took the piss out of him in the Champions League. So he's not that good.
Paul raises a good question. Do you reckon he's better than Adrian?
Probably not.
Yeah. That's something that I'd agree with as well in that. Right. Now, forgive me, I don't recognise this player at all. I don't think I've done a recent. Ross Barkley.
Yeah.
Where do we think Ross Barkley's going?
Okay. He's all right for Luton.
Yeah, it's okay. I don't think it's as from my knowledge of him as a player, I think it's fine. Doesn't scream the world down. We're into the last 3 teams that we have here at the moment. We have Newcastle next, and we have Liverpool as the first option that we have here. Race, a couple of opinions on the right back that Newcastle have signed. Do you think he'd be a good signer for them? What have you liked out of him so far?
I think it's not too bad of a signing for them. Of course, again with full Newcastle. Having the Champions League this year, so they're using that money and they're getting in some players. I like some of the other business they did, but this is kind of an okay for me now, I guess. Maybe I honestly don't have much opinion on them, to be honest, but just kind of an average for me.
Yeah, I reckon it is. Charlie's saying here that it's a big risk as he's a massive injury and a very high price from, and I'd agree with that as well. So we're just putting him in the okay category for the moment and see how he does, Race, or do you think he should go a little bit up? Right?
Okay is good.
Yeah, we bang him.
Yeah, okay.
Then we have Barnes, left winger that it's just they brought in. They've done a couple of these guys very close to the end of the window. I think Tonali was the only one that they had that was very, very early on in the window. Give me a couple of your thoughts on Barnes as a signing as a left winger.
I'm not sure. I think I'm not sure why they signed Anthony Gordon, in short, to be honest, because I think Harvey Barnes is what they've been looking for. I think in the absence of bring it to the touchline and stand there, Alan St. Maximin, absolutely no end result whatsoever. Of like a Adama Traore type B. It's like having Harvey Barnes as a breath of fresh air where he can actually produce something when he's on the pitch. Anthony Gordon, for me, is another one of those signings, another Alan St. Maximin. It's just a lot of pace, a lot of dribbling, and most of the time, especially at Everton, there wasn't really much of an end result. Same with Damari Gray a lot of the time. And I think Harvey Barnes is what I guess they were trying to look for in Anthony Gordon. And it's all depth. It's wise of them to get both of them, you could argue, especially considering they're both English. So it's the homegrown situation. But Harvey Barnes is the real deal. I'd put him as good, possibly moving up into great, depending on how he does. I think it's what they're looking for at left wing, given their past history of people in that position. Yeah,
I think he could. Just the player profile itself seems to fit what Eddie Howe kind of wants to do. I think Anthony Gordon was just bought purely because he's a pace merchant and he's a bit of a shithouse. I think that's really what his career is riding on at the moment. Matty, Lewis Hall then, that they got as a left back signing. Do you think that was a decent signing as well, or have Newcastle only done small goods bits of business this season?
I have no jar glue. He is.
Does anybody in the comments want to throw in an opinion on him, or if anybody Race or Neo want to throw in an opinion on him?
Is he Chelsea's man? Is that where he's come from? Isn't
Yeah.
I don't know. It's another. It's sort of youth production from them. You could maybe sort of bet that he's going to come good at some point. Yeah, it's hard to tell, honestly, from my perspective anyway.
And then we have the big man himself, Tonali, and I think Paul mentioned something well here that he looks so much better with AC Milan than Newcastle.
Just wanted to be there.
And he's that's true, and he's high expectations, and he hasn't really fit in yet. I think he's just not being played in the right position. Race, what do you think about Tonali?
I think this certainly, this is of course Newcastle's premier signing this summer, and I think it'll turn out to be a good signing for them. Of course, like you said, high expectations coming in and playing maybe a little out of position. I'd be curious to see how he does, in the Champions League with them, just to, of course, as we play on more and fitting into their new system. So, I think it'll be a good piece of signing for them.
Good sign. So we throw him there bang in the middle. Now we have two teams left. The two teams that I think are going to be fighting for the Premier League title. We have Man City, and then we move on to the Liverpool signings then at the end. So with City, the first player we have here is Kovacic. Naum, what do you think about Kovacic as a signing? Do you think it's good business by City?
Yeah, I think I'm almost happy for Kovacic getting out of the situation you were saying at Chelsea. I think he would have fallen well by the wayside at Chelsea, given how many people they brought in now. And it's close to a like-for-like transfer you could get, really, for Gundogan. Gundogan is something else. And I think, you can't really say that Kovacic is exactly the same as him, but he is in the Prem, the closest sort of alternative. I'd say good, if he fills the boots he's been put in, great, but good for now, towards the top.
Good for now. Cool. Next player then we have to move on to is Mateus Nunes, Matty, as I think a bit of a knee-jerk reaction signing to get in depth for Kevin De Bruyne. But what do you think?
I really like Nunes as a player. I wanted Liverpool to get him last year, but I think if it's nail on the head, he's just going to cover for De Bruyne and fall down the pecking order. So I think it's just an okay sign. I don't think it's good. I think it's just an okay. It'll steady the ship, but they've got that luxury that they can just bring players in to steady the ship. Wouldn't surprise me if they sold them in a few years, but he's a very good player, very, very good player. But I think it's an okay bit of business for them.
Raced in, we have Josko Gvardiol. Where do you think, are we going to finally maybe have a second world-class signing up there with the king himself, or is he going to remain up there by the top by himself?
I think you could make a case for him, certainly for being, world-class just this season. Just the type of player that he is, and they brought in the tag they got in, and it was just a little weird how that deal kind of went down, but eventually got over the line in City, making a point of emphasis in that back line and, kind of refreshing and sorting that end of the field out. Certainly a tremendous signing for me.
Yeah, I think so too. I think we should bang him up here, possibly in the top of the grade, because
world class.
You think world class?
Yeah. The age.
Yeah.
Beautiful. He is.
Yeah.
It does me head in because with the money we bid for Caicedo, we could have bid for him, and he would have come to us for less money than City. He's a Liverpool fan, but he is world class. Unbelievable.
Yeah, I think that could have just been our Van Dijk replacement there straight away. But it is what it is. We'll deal with that in January and next summer, and then we have Jeremy Doku. Naum, give me a couple of your thoughts on Doku as a player and as a signing for City. Do you think he'll do numbers?
I've always really liked Doku, and if they're trying to replace their Riyad Mahrez archetype, I think. He's a City player for me. I think close ball control, sort of passing range, and blistering speed. I think really good transfer. I'd put it in great, to be honest, coming from where he did for the price that he did to that team, and the boots he's filling really well so far. That's great, I'd say.
I think Charlie makes a bit of a point here as well. Just before we move on to the Liverpool players, I think it's worth maybe reviewing it, considering that we've made points for some players and not the same for others. I don't know if I'd agree with you with Maddison being world class, but I do think Rice maybe moves up there. I thought he looked very, very comfortable on the ball against Man United, and he does what a CDM you want him to do. Just take the ball, hold it, be strong in possession, and distribute it. So I wouldn't be mad at moving him up there. I think it's just us being a bit salty that he's up there.
I wouldn't. I'd move all of them. What he said to great. To be fair, Maddison's not world class. He's a very, 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 very good sign, but he's not a world class player. I think that's what you put.
Yeah,
Origi's just different, isn't he? But Declan Rice, I'd probably world class as well. I rarely rate Declan Rice, to be fair, but entirely up to you.
See, the thing about it is the only reason I wouldn't classify it as excuse me, as a world class signing is because he's £105 million.
Yeah, you have to mention the price.
It's like the price is the other thing that comes into it. The player ability is one thing, but if you sign somebody like, let's say, I'll use Szoboszlai as an example. We sign somebody that could be a generational midfielder for half the price nearly. I would consider that a world-class signing rather than a world-class player. Declan Rice is a world-class player, but for 100 million, it's not a world-class signing because that's what you expect him to do. And I know it was a release clause, but for Haaland as well, that's a world-class signing and a world-class bit of business because of the price of it and what the production he done on it.
Yeah,
I that's the only reason I would put it in there. That's literally it. Like, and he can be a top 5 DM in the world, Charlie. That's all well and good, but we're going by the signing.
I just think of the prices of midfielders this year. I mean, Sheikh Doucouré he wanted 70 mil for him. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It just went mad, and I think that's what I said when we spoke about. So I feel like he'll be massively affected by his price, Declan Rice, because everyone's going to have all eyes on him and stuff. But he is unbelievable.
Oh, he is as a player, and I 100% agree with you, Charlie. Shits on Caicedo, and they got him for cheaper. 100% agree with you.
Yep.
It's more so the price of it itself is where I can't, like. Obviously, I'm being outvoted here, and it's a democracy that we work at here. So he's going up there, but I just don't. I can't justify it purely because he cost over 100 million quid.
Yeah.
A person that costs over 100 million quid has to be world class. It literally has to be guaranteed. Otherwise, it's a flop, in my opinion. You don't have to spend that money on somebody for that. But look, if I'm being outvoted here and that, so I think that's there. Do we want to change anything else? Do we think everything else is all right there?
I'd say so, yeah.
Yeah, I kind of think we've got everything fairly spot
on. I know that he's injured, so you've got to look at that aspect this season.
That's the only other aspect that I look at. A potential, he could 110% be world class, but you don't know how he's going to come back from that injury. Yeah. And I think it'll take him until next season to actually get back up to speed, unfortunately. So I think
Prowse is great, like Moises is saying. I think he's a great signing for West Ham, if we're factoring that into it as well.
Yeah, I reckon so too. Where do I have Ward-Prowse fired?
Good. Second from the end.
That I'm there, is it?
Oh, no.
No, there we go. From up from there we go. Fantastic. I was looking, I knew he had some weird fucking pose, like he was after putting a golf ball or something. But now on to the main event of the evening. We have our very own homeboys, Ryan Gravenberch. I'll ask yourself, Maddie, and we'll go down through this, and then I'll finish on Mac Allister then. So we'll ask you, Maddie, on this in relation to Gravenberch. We haven't seen him play yet, obviously, but we'll speak on potential. How good do you think he could be for us in relation to a signing?
I'm bitter and twisted, and I think every bit of business is world class. But genuinely, I think he's got the potential to be great. Brad put him in good because we haven't seen him yet, but like Paul says, to build our midfield for less than 150 mils, unbelievable. I put Gravenberch, like, if we get Ajax Gravenberch, it's a great bit of business.
Yeah, I'd agree with you on that.
But if you're only as good as your last game and you'd say your last season, he's good business.
Race, then in regards to Endo, our Red Samurai, give us a couple of thoughts in relation to that signing, and if you think it was a bit of good business or was it a bit of a knee-jerk reaction to needing a 6 at the time, or do you think he actually could perform well for us?
I think he could. Right now it's of course hard because he's coming to the side. He's played 2 games. We've gone down to 10 men in both games and haven't seen him in our fully functional kind of midfield with him in the 6th and Szoboszlai and Mac Allister alongside him. So I think, and it wasn't a very, expensive move by any means. So I think you can maybe put him in that good category, or if you want to bump down to okay, that's fine. We just need to see more of him, but for the price, and it was a bit of a knee-jerk reaction because, when we did sign him, it just kind of came about quick. I'm thankful that we brought in another player kind of to maybe be alongside him or challenge for that role with Gravenberch. So nothing too special on the end move. It's just a great depth signing, but for us, he could certainly play a bigger role, and I think he has the capability. He's a very experienced player in his own right, and I think we'll certainly put on for the shirt and put in a good performance. So it'd be a good move for me. I think you muted, Stephen.
Apologies. I'm coughing here because I have a bit of a flu, so I don't want to sound like I'm deafening people on the microphone. But I'd agree with you is what I was mentioning. And then just to move on to Naum for the second to last one, we have the handsome devil himself, Dominik Szoboszlai. I think he's a world class signing myself, but I'll defer to you in relation to this, Naum, and that's what you think.
I don't think there's anything I can really say about him that isn't already apparent from the way he plays. He's absolutely brilliant. I think he's everything you'd really want in a especially sort of a rebuilt player like the new sort of generation of the squad. World class is undebatable for me. It's 60 million quid, no add-ons obviously because it's a release clause. In a few years, given the inflation of the market, he could have gone to us for 170. He is a ridiculous talent. At 22, he was set up for quite a while with that guy.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I agree with what Charlie says too here. I'm going to add another world-class signing to that as well in Mac Allister, and Jamie is getting them for Christmas as well with Szoboszlai. And realistically, I think Paul is quite right here that I think out of the midfielders that were in the market, I think Bellingham would only have been a better signing for our midfield than Szoboszlai. In my own personal opinion, I agree with that. Rice, maybe for a CDM role, but we didn't think we were going to lose Fabinho at that point. So that doesn't necessarily shock me, but I'm putting Mac Allister up here in world class. I can't see, the man has played out of position all season so far. And to be honest with you, for the way he absolutely dog walked Caicedo in the Argentina match, I think he deserves to be in world class anyway for that. So that's just my own personal opinion on that. And as William puts here as well, if Paqueta is going for 100 million, Szoboszlai at 60 is absolute madness. And I think that's a great bit of business by us. But and as well as Charlie mentions here, for 35 million for one of the best midfielders in the world, a World Cup winning midfielder, somebody that has shown that he can play anywhere in the three spots that we have in midfield, I think there's no doubt about it that this is...
For me, it's world-class business getting him for 35 mil, but I'd only put him in great. For me, Szoboszlai is got the potential to be one of the best midfielders the Premier League's ever seen, I think, and same with Gvardiol. I think he's got the potential to be one of the best left-backs the league's seen. Same with Declan Rice. He probably is one of the best defensive midfielders the league will see, but for me, Mac Allister, I'd put him at great just for now. I think he's got the potential to be world-class. He was one of the best midfielders in the Prem last year, but it's world-class business for the value that we paid. But I think I'd put him in great just because there's just that little bit more level to Szoboszlai for me. So I'd say world-class for Szoboszlai, but great for Maka. And I'd probably put Endo in okay as well. I'd agree with Charlie on that.
I think Endo will be the top of okay. I have Mac here. He could be there to here. He could very easily sit right at the top of it and teeter on the edge of it. I think purely because of the fact that he's been as good as he is out of his position, and he's not been playing in his regular 10 role. He's been playing as a cover for a 6, and he's been playing in a double pivot with Trent. I think that and how well he's been playing out of position, I think that speaks to how good he can be in his actual natural position. And I don't think we've even unlocked his full potential yet there. So we could come back to this in 3 months and we could say, yeah, we got 2 world-class signings for less than 100 million, which is absolutely bonkers. But yeah, I think that's the way that's going to go. Okay, we're coming up onto an hour and a half now at the moment. I think we're going to call it there. I think we've gone over time by a good bit now to get through all of this. Just to make you guys aware, just please leave a like and subscribe on the channel if you haven't already done so. And thank you for all the comments with the ratings. It was a great chat to have and see all the comments coming through. If you've liked and subscribed already, thank you so much. Make sure you have the bell notification on for when you want to come and watch all of our other streams. We're here from 7:30 every evening. And again, thank you so much for watching. For myself, Maddie, Race, and Naum, thank you so much for watching. We see you again tomorrow at 7:30.